Welcome back to another video. And in this video, we have an all-star that I've been itching to get on this for a long time and happy he was able to clear his schedule to share his story and for us to learn more about what he's working on. So Steve, thank you so much for your time. How's it going?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It is going well, just a busy day, another recruiting busy day. Mondays and Fridays are always crazy. So yeah, just trying to stay busy.
It never stops. So the cool thing about your background is it's similar to mine. You actually learned recruiting from a job like me, and
Yeah.
then you decide to kind of go off on your own, which is super cool. So tell me about the job. Did you have multiple recruiting jobs? Did you only have one recruiting job? And how did you find that job?
Yeah, so it was back in 2019. I was a new college grad and, thought I was going to do real estate for the rest of my life. And then really fell out of real estate after a couple months after graduating, and then was looking through LinkedIn from prior messages. I saw that somebody reached out to me about a recruiter job and really started that way. So it went from a simple little LinkedIn DM from an internal staffing company, and yeah, started working there in New York City 5 days a week on site. And yeah, it just took off from there.
You said real estate. So were you a real estate agent before? Or is that
Yeah.
something that you were thinking about? Oh, you were.
Yeah. I got my real estate license when I was a junior in college. And from there, I worked as a real estate agent for the next 2 years. So up until my senior year, until I finished, things were going decently well. So I thought I was going to continue doing real estate. It then just a point came to my mind that, hey, I'm just tired of driving to this house, to that house, to that house. And then, my client using multiple real estate agents. It was very becoming much of like a physical taxing after hours type of job, which I'm not complaining about, but coming out of college, yeah, you don't have too much money for gas and expenses these days. So yeah, I wanted to find something in sales, but something that was allowing me to work remotely or work from a computer. And it was a great, recruiting came along and I had no idea how it was going to go, but it
That's
was
so
working. Yeah.
interesting. That's so interesting because I too also thought about going into real estate. I don't have actual any real estate experience, but I remember when I was looking for a job, I'm like, should I do recruiting or should I do real estate? And then I chose recruiting because I didn't have to work on the weekends. Because real estate open houses on the weekends, that's where you make your money, right? Or that's where like a lot of people still work a lot officially on the weekends as a real estate agent, and then you have to travel. So I'm like, oh, I don't have to travel. I can just sit on my butt, turn on my computer, and work.
Yeah, just some small jobs here and there, tutoring, things like that, but never really sales. I really touched sales when I got into real estate.
Did you just start your own recruitment agency and are struggling getting your own clients? Are you thinking about starting your own agency but afraid to make the jump? Do you have your own clients but you're struggling to find the perfect candidates fast? Do you have a full-time job and want to do recruitment part-time to make more money on the side and have no idea how to? If you answered yes to any of these questions, please consider joining our private community. It is a trust-based community where recruiters around the world can support, collaborate, and work together on placements all around the year consistently. In this community, you will directly have access to the real open jobs of my team and of our members, and you will also have the chance to access trainings, events, giveaways, and much, much more. If you are part of this community, I communicate and work with you as if you were on my own team, and I'll do whatever I can to do a placement together with your client or candidate. So if you're struggling to get your own clients or candidates and you want a way you can make sure you can be busy all year round by having access to many more open roles, then this is something you need to look into. This is open to people around the world and is open for recruiters in every industry and experience levels, as we will always have a good number of variety of open jobs across sectors, markets, and industries. I'm really happy to say that within the first 30 days, we have already have a new member with minimal recruiting experience do his first placement that had a total fee of almost 30,000 US dollars, and we are working hard to do many, many more this year. If you are interested and excited, there are only a limited number of spots open, so make sure you sign up quick at patreon.com/recruiterpreston. If you have any questions, please reach out to me on LinkedIn, Instagram, or Discord. We can set up a time to chat. See you on the other side.
And so ultimately, I went the
Yeah.
recruiting route. And then what did you do before real estate?
For real estate, I was just a student. So
Okay.
that was it. Yeah. So I was doing real estate throughout college, and then, yeah, just saw some small jobs here and there, tutoring, things like that, but never really sales. I really touched sales when I got into real estate in college.
Why did you want to do sales, or why did you want to continue doing sales?
I mean, I just wanted to challenge myself. I would say growing up, I was more like an introverted kid, and I would just kind of stay to myself. So I wanted to completely change gears and, instead of going engineering and just focusing on, a job that allows me to stay quiet, not really get out there, I wanted to try something that is completely uncomfortable. And yeah, real estate makes you want to get out there, makes you have to get out there. You have to get business cards, you have to get, your own marketing, you have to, reach out, cold call, send out flyers, get your face out there, get your name out there. So it was super uncomfortable for me to do. And it was like the biggest hurdle that I had to jump is just getting that license. But from getting that, it's opened so many doors for me in the sales world, and recruiting and sales, like you say, right? So it kind of translated a lot over.
So you joined an agency in New York City, and were you full desk? Were you 180? What was your market?
So I was on the machine learning and AI team, and
Okay.
it was a 360 role. So getting clients in the morning, answering emails in the morning, candidate stuff in the afternoon, going back to clients in the evening. So managing both desks there. Yeah.
That's awesome. And so from doing another sales job previously in real estate, stuff like cold emailing, cold calling you were no stranger to that. It was kind of a walk in the park. And also you didn't have to travel, right? You didn't have to pay for gas. So it must have been,
Yeah.
was the transition for you a lot easier? Or did you also find the sales aspect to be challenging as well when
Yeah.
you had your recruiter job?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think with any recruiting or anything new, there becomes a point where you think to yourself, am I able to do something like this? Am I able to transition into something like this? And I'll say that it's a lot more nerve-wracking for you to go up to a door, knock on their door, and meet people face to face than just picking up the phone and cold calling. So it was a lot easier for me to get past that barrier for cold outbound reach out, but I never knew if I was going to be good at it or not. It's a different game because you have a lot going on, a lot more moving pieces. So you're working clients, right? So you're trying to build and get clients. On the other side, you're managing candidates, and they're probably only free during off hours or whatnot. So I was always wondering if I never knew if I was going to be, successful at it at all. But I just knew that, I had the foundation from real estate to make the cold calls, to send out emails, to do uncomfortable work. And that helped me out a lot.
How long did it take you to do your first placement at your job?
Ooh, first placement. I would say, I think it was in the first 60 days.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, yeah, it took some time, but
That's still relatively fast though, 60 days.
yeah, yeah, I would say so, right? You're getting into the groove of things. But yeah, I think it was the fundamentals were pretty simple for me. I had a lot of help too, and I had good coaching behind me. I definitely could not have done it if I was doing it by myself, but I had a coach or slash my manager at the time that told me, hey, this is what a good candidate looks like. This is what a good job looks like. This is how, a client should be responding to you, to your candidates. So from all of that, it just made my job a lot easier to get that first placement.
That's awesome. And then you were kind of working as a recruiter at a job in 2019. So what was like the main ways you guys were doing outreach for companies? Was it cold calling? Was it cold emailing, LinkedIn messaging, combination? Were you just focused on one?
I would say three main things. Number one is cold calling. So we would have a session in the morning of cold calling, hiring managers. Second is what we call D jobs. So on the afternoons, we would gather D jobs. So D jobs, think of it like it comes from the candidate calls that you're doing and the jobs that they're interviewing at. So let's say, for example, I talk to X candidate and he tells me he's interviewing at three other companies. Now I know that these three companies are hiring for X position. So I'm going to reach out to these companies and say, hey, do you need help with hiring? So that's another big thing that we did, which is D jobs. So calls, D jobs, and then emailing, personalized emails to hiring managers.
That's awesome. Yeah. It sounds simple, but it's also just creative. How else do you find other companies that are hiring and finding it from the candidates? It's easily overlooked by a lot of companies and a lot of agencies. And so that's really cool. And so what prompted you to kind of start your own working for yourself after the job?
Oh yeah. So I worked a year in recruiting and at a staffing and recruiting company. And after that 1 year, I started on my own. COVID happened, and the company we had some differences there as far as like me staying on, etc. So me coming into the office with COVID and whatnot still going on. So we separated ways. I was looking for new jobs. I really couldn't find any that was remote at the time. So I said, hey, being a 360 recruiter, you're basically your own solo entrepreneur. You're bringing in clients, you're placing candidates into the role. So why don't I just give it a shot? And I had nothing to lose at the time. I had a little bit of money saved up. And from there, I just gave it my all. And from the beginning, I was not successful, I would say. I had no coaching. I didn't know what systems and tools to set up. It was very much trial, error. It doesn't work. This works. That works. Okay, I'm going to keep this, but change this. So a lot of playing around with different tools. And it probably took me the first 90 days to get my first deal, but I was able to get a client, I was able to fill the job, and yeah, that's kind of the beginning story there.
That's still relatively fast. Anything 90 days or under, for any business to make some money, I think that's great. You shouldn't be too hard on yourself. But like, what was there something that you didn't kind of anticipate working for yourself? Like, oh my God, this is a lot harder than I thought. Aside from like the systems, maybe like mentally, emotionally, like what maybe your stress. Talk me through the early days of your first year. How was that?
I would say there becomes a point where you are a CEO. Anybody can become a CEO in today's age. I think it's super easy to file an LLC and, get your name up there as CEO and change your LinkedIn title to founder, CEO, etc. by starting your own business. But if you don't have the fundamentals, if you don't have experience, if you don't have discipline, those are the things that are going to make or break your career in recruiting, especially. And for me, that was the learning curve. It was me saying, hey, like I have to wake up every day at the same time. I have to do cold calls, emails when I don't feel like it. Even though there's nobody really watching over me, I still have to put in the work. Even when things are going good, I still have to put in the work. So you're kind of your own boss and you have freedom that way, but it's also at your detriment, right? So you always have to have a schedule. You always have to stick to your schedule and have goals, create momentum from the night before, have an idea of what you're going to do the next day. Say you're going to, wake up, go to the gym, or whatever it is that you say you basically do. And once you build that muscle over time, then you start to trust yourself. And then that confidence not only is in yourself, but the clients that you're working with feel that too. So that's something that I had to learn in the beginning. I kind of took it for granted, the freedom that I had. But yeah, over time I changed and had to become a little bit more consistent.
That's awesome. What was the, I guess, most amount of deals you've done in 1 month working for yourself? Do you have like a PR, a personal record?
No real personal record. I think 2 was the most I did. It was very spread out, but I managed to just do 1 or 2 every month, 2 months, 3 months, but just keep the momentum going there and just keep it going as much as I can. So even when things were going good, I just had to make sure that, I'm taking care of myself in the next 30 days, 60 days, getting clients, having people in process. But yeah, nothing too crazy. I was, wasn't working too many jobs on my own. Maybe I would say like 5 to 6 roles, sometimes even less than that, 3, 4 roles. But yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even though that may not sound a lot, I mean, one deal is still significant, right? And you're able to do one pretty consistent throughout the year. You're clearing 6 figures per year, right? And you were able to do the 1 or 2 more on top of that. I mean, life is gravy, right? And I think that the coolest thing about being a solo recruiter is like you don't really need to have pressure to grow or scale or have a team if you don't want to. If you're just a really good solo recruiter, life can be great, great flexibility, great clients, great candidates, really great deals, fantastic margins. I think that's awesome. And I think that's as good as like having a small team, right? If you can produce consistently yourself, that's still worth acknowledgement and respect. But yeah, I really appreciate you sharing. Now, recently, you've also just done, I think, like a really big deal. And you were kind of sharing with me some of the story that happened there. And I think it's something like, the client really liked the candidate, but you are just getting the hardest time getting in touch with the candidate, but she was still moving forward with the client. You just didn't know what to do. And then we just kind of found out that it was like a final, it was an offer, right? Is that what happened? Or you want to share more?
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to the beginning, right? And sometimes I think this is where experience really plays a big role. So initially, when I submitted the candidate, the client rejected the candidate. So it was like a big surprise to me, and I thought it was really a strong fit. And we had to go back and say, hey, are you double sure on that? Like, you really want to reject this candidate? And the candidate went, oh, wait a minute, I completely messed it up. This is a candidate that I want to talk to. I don't know how I oversaw this. So sometimes I think, these little mistakes happen. I think if you're an experienced recruiter, you'll be able to catch something like this. But we were able to do that. Our team was able to do that. And we, went through the interviews. The candidate crushed every interview. But the one thing that we did really well is we prepared the candidate. So before every interview, we gave 2 tips, who they're going to talk to, what type of person this was, or what responses that this person would look for. I mean, look, like most of the time you won't have this information, but if you do, it's really important to prep your candidate as much as you can. So yeah, and then towards the end of the interviews, I mean, there was always like a competing company opportunity that was coming along, but the good thing was that this candidate was pretty safe, secure with this company, felt pretty good about some of the talent on the team. And it also helped having a good founder to sell in. So I think that's another important thing of getting good clients and getting good people to work with, where they do a lot of the heavy lifting of the offer stage and they can come in, take care and of any issues, any problems. And that's what kind of happened in this situation, where we were lucky enough to do that. But sometimes, most of the time when you're a solo recruiter, you have to do a lot of heavy lifting yourself and make sure that you're qualifying and restating, okay, this is what you wanted salary wise. This still makes sense, right? So that's mostly your day to day going to be like as a recruiter. But yeah, we got a little lucky here. Can't lie.
The most interesting thing was that client initially rejected the candidate, right? And with our jobs, we have to always find the right opportunity to decide, should we fight for the candidate? Should we push back? And when is the right time to do that, right? You can always just push back every single time, but then you can risk pissing off the client and pissing off them so much that they'll just walk away from you or just stop the engagement. Like that's the worst case scenario. Or like, you want to find good moments, like, are you sure? And I think that really comes from really understanding the role, which you've done, and then be like, hey, I understand now the candidate's background, how it aligns perfectly with the role. We got to push back. It just makes sense, right? And if you didn't do that, this deal probably wouldn't have happened. Maybe it would have happened with another candidate, but not with this candidate. So the fact that like you saved this deal, that's really cool. And the second thing is like, you can always do the best that you can and control what you can control. But at the end of the day, anything can happen, right? Like anything, you can prep them as well as you can, but there's no guarantee that the candidate will respond back to you or be accessible to you. There's no guarantee that, the interviews will go smoothly or the client will get back to you. So it sounded like you did everything right. You advocated, you prepped, you followed up. And then, towards the later stages, like at the candidate just became tough to get in touch with, which is not ideal. But I guess the silver lining was that the client's founder is a strong closer. And he was able to do a lot of the heavy lifting and just end up closing the candidate, which is fantastic. So that was like a monster deal. What was the final salary? You said it was like 200 or something, or 210?
Yeah, it was around there. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. That's crazy. But it goes to show, like in recruiting and in business, you just have to go with the flow and pivot and adapt, and not things will never go your way all the time. And if you expect them to, that's kind of silly, because it just doesn't, right? And so that comes to the roller coaster of just working for yourself and just managing everything. For people that are currently working for themselves, Steve, who are struggling, or people who are looking to become a recruiter, what would you say is like an advice, like a high level advice you want to share when it comes to just finding and reaching out to new clients and finding and engaging new candidates?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just keep going, right? Like I recently read a book, The Alchemist, and there was like a person that was, I believe, a man that he was mining and he was looking for diamonds, and he started, this was his passion, and he was looking for diamonds for about 5 years now. And on the fifth year, he looked at a rock and he threw that rock, and that rock ended up breaking in half, and it was a diamond inside that rock. So sometimes you get so close to it, but you fail to keep going the extra step, which really is where the diamond is. And it's really, in recruiting, you only need one really good client or like one really good candidate to make it or break it, right? You don't need, if you're especially on your own, you don't need so many things working well for you. You just need a good group of people that you work really well with. So everybody can find that. You just need to keep going, one message at a time, one call at a time, and you'll definitely get where you need to go. And I would say just having a consistent mentality of every day coming up and showing, if you're especially on your own, showing up every single day and just having a routine for yourself that works well. Because it's easy to slack off, when no one's looking at you and you don't have weekly calls or daily calls with your manager. So it's always important to, be true to your word, be committed to the job itself, and just day in and day out grind. And soon enough, you'll look up and you'll say, hey, I have these candidates in this process. I have this client in this process. Things are going well for me. And you'll thank, yourself from 60 days ago for that.
I think the diamond is the hard work. You just got to put in the hard work and just got to show up. When you feel like nothing's happening, you still got to show up and just trust the process. And you're able to do that, results will happen, right? It's not if, it's 100%. When. It's not if, 100%. It's when. And I 1,000% believe that over and over and over and over and over again. Can you maybe share with the audience clients? Like, how do you kind of structure your day now? Because people are always wondering, as a 360 recruiter, like, what do I do in the morning? What do I do in the evening? And has that changed since like the first year when you started working for yourself? Are you a lot more structured now? What's better? What's different?
Yeah, I mean, it's been the same the whole time. It's been BD, business development in the morning. From there, I would also take care of any fires, scheduling, interviews, clients reaching out, anything like that. Take care of it in the morning, and then BD, nothing but BD from, let's say like 9 a.m. until 10, 12 o'clock. And, this kind of is like the anchor of the day because the rest of the day becomes crazy with candidate calls and, people, current candidates calling you, candidates saying, hey, I need to reschedule my interview today. So day gets hectic once you're in the afternoon with candidate calls. So after that, around 5 o'clock, we go back and we prepare for tomorrow, make sure that we're building momentum for tomorrow. So I usually make a list of the people that I need to contact and spec out emails to, and who am I going to spec out, which candidate that I'm going to use to send emails to. So things like that I would do towards the end of the day and make sure that, next Tuesday, today's Monday, Tuesday comes around and it's easy for me to just start working again. It's not like I have to put in too much work to think.
For sure. I think preparation is important and just following a routine is also important. What are your thoughts of like that boundaries for times? Because like I see recruiting very similar to real estate agents, but real estate agent, you almost have to kind of be on 24/7, right? If a client emails you or calls you late in the evening, you kind of have to take it. If a client calls you on the weekend, you should take it, right? So with recruiting, it's easy to kind of look at it more of a job, like hours, 9 to 5, 9 to 6. But I'm sure you see a lot of similarities between real estate, working with customers and clients. Sometimes it's talking early mornings, sometimes late in the evenings. Same thing with recruiting. So how important is it to, like, if a client wants to talk to you or if a candidate wants to talk to you, it's a little bit later in the evening, right? Like, are you the person that you would make an effort to kind of talk to them on the spot, or you just schedule them the next day or two? Like, how important is just being accessible and speed, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, it's super important. I think, I think a lot of people come into this business and think, oh, I'm going to be on my own, but that's, I'm my own entrepreneur, I can pick my own schedule and my time. It really is not that. Your clients become your bosses to some degree, right? I mean, you can let go of some clients that you don't work well with, but, the clients that are reaching out to you off hours, even they need your support, right? That's essentially what you are, is a recruiting consultant, right? That was my title my first year when I started recruiting. So a consultant is somebody that is always there for you any time, any day when you have some issues. So you have to always, think that founders and VPs are having a hard day and they're just super busy and they may need to only reach out to you at 8 o'clock at night. And that's okay. That's fine to do that sometimes, right? So it's always being flexible. You're gonna have clients, let's say I'm in New Jersey right now, you're gonna have clients in San Francisco. So their 5 o'clock is my 8 o'clock. So being able to manage that timing is something that they're going to look at you and be like, they'll remember that as well. Your responsiveness. It's a very underrated skill.
For sure. I mean, we are a consultant, we are a concierge, we're there to help companies hire, which is a huge deal, right? It's easy to kind of just ignore that fact because we're just so constant in the day-to-day find candidates for clients, but they're actually hiring people, which is like a really big deal. It's going to have significant consequences on their team and the team's culture. And it's also stressful, right? And so it's important to not only deliver on the candidate side, but also being able to just help them out on the emotional, psychological side, providing leadership or a strategy, or just, being a good psychologist or therapist or slash consultant, right? So I make an effort to always be there for my candidates and clients as much as possible. You don't have to. I think people who are listening, you don't have to do this. I know that people who perform really well do what they can to make sure everyone has a good experience. That's including clients and candidates, right? And it's just a good practice and just a good mindset to have when coming into recruiting, because it's very much a service business to both different kind of parties, both candidates and clients. What would you say is like one of your favorite tools? It could be any random tool that you like to use. There's no good or wrong, good or right answer. Just what are your thoughts? What's one tool that comes to mind?
I really like LinkedIn. Well, that's the basic one. LinkedIn works really well for us. But the underrated one I would say is Apollo. Apollo for email finding, setting up automations, things like that.
For sure. It's very important to stand out, right? Where do you see the future of recruiting going, in your opinion?
I think it's going to be super important for us to be in the game, in the life cycle of onboarding. I think recruiting agencies are going to have a lot of automations with AI coming about, but AI is never going to be able to replace what we do. We're very much a consultant. It's emotional. Anytime you're dealing with humans and changing jobs, which is like probably even bigger than buying a house, right? You're changing the thing that you're doing every single day. Anytime you're dealing with high pressure, high stakes situations like this, there's always going to be a human element. So I think AI will never replace us, but it's going to help us with tools like, for example, ChatGPT. If I don't understand a job description and I don't understand the tools, I'm able to copy paste and understand it very simply, but it will never replace what we do. There's never going to be robots that, take intake candidate calls, I think.
Or at least in a lifetime, fingers crossed.
Yeah, yeah. And then it comes out tomorrow, right? Sam Altman.
Yeah, exactly.
Breaking news.
The joke's on us. Awesome, man. And then I guess just want to give you one more opportunity. Any one big general advice you want to give to people that you felt like you didn't touch on, for people who just want to 10x their recruiting or who want to find success in recruiting? What's one thing that you want to share?
I would just say, like what I said before, just staying consistent day in and day out with the work that you do. The work that you do today is the rewards that you'll see in 60, 90 days from now. Because the second thing I would say is it's a game that you not a lot of control in, right? So you're not able to really see how a candidate is able to perform. You can do your best and qualify them, but there's so many elements that are outside of your grasp. So don't be too emotionally attached to, a lost deal or a lost client or something that's not working well for you. Things will work in your favor if you just keep putting in the work, keep following up with your clients, keep following up with your candidates, and just show up every day. So yeah, and that's the second thing I would say. Just don't get too emotional about it and don't be too hard on yourself. In a situation, if you're a person that likes control, I would not recommend recruiting for you, but I would say that, it's a great industry. I've learned a lot about sales, lifestyle, how to deal with people, how to deal with emotions, how to negotiate. So it's fun, and not at the end of the day, it's big money, right? Like you make good money if you are able to place somebody. So stick with it.
Stick with it, be consistent, don't be emotionally dependent on situations, show up, never give up. Wise words from Steve. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
check out my book, please. It's Steve, the Wise Man. So
Yeah, he's actually joking. He does not have a book, but he might have a book in the future, maybe. But Steve, I
no
appreciate it.
books.
Always great catching up with you. I wish you nothing but luck and have confidence you're going to continue to crush it. Congratulations on your most recent deal. And yeah, thank you for sharing a lot of great advice to the audience. I'm sure a lot of them will be able to run with it and be able to implement it in their desk and business and agency right now. So I appreciate you. I will let you go back and keep focusing on those placements and keep crushing it. And we'll talk soon.
Thank you, Preston, for having me, and thanks for everybody for listening in. And yeah, appreciate I was able to share some words today. So thanks a lot.
You got it. Take care, man.